I've read a lot of books, hundreds, and most of them say the same thing over and over again, but these 10 right here, they're life-changing. Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell. This book talks of a story of a farmer. This farmer was living a beautiful life and he was very content. One day a priest came by and the priest started talking to the farmer and started telling the farmer that he could find diamonds across the globe because so many people became diamond miners and were finding them everywhere. So then one day this farmer was content, the next day he was discontent. So what ended up happening was this farmer sold his farm in the pursuit of diamonds. Anyway, he traveled across the globe looking for his diamonds. One day he ran out of money, had no money left, so he tossed himself in the river, killing himself. The priest stumbled by that property again. He asked the new owner what happened to the old owner, and he told him that the old owner sold his property to go and look for diamonds. The priest saw something on the mantelpiece. They looked on the mantelpiece together and it was a rock. And he's like, where did you find that? Down by the river, the new owner said. So they stumbled down by the river and what did they find? They found more of these rocks, only to discover these were diamonds. They had the largest diamond mine in history. And what is the moral of the story? Don't look for opportunity elsewhere because opportunity is right in front of you. So this is a great book. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This book tells of a story of a young boy named Santiago. Santiago was born in Spain. He one day had a dream that he would be able to travel to the Egyptian pyramids and there he would find his treasure. His father had a tear in his eye. His father wanted to do these things, but he didn't pursue his dreams, he was too scared to. He gave his son Santiago his blessing and he gave him some gold to take on his journey. Along the journey, Santiago stumbled across a king. And this king said one of the most important things in life is for us to live our personal legend. And Santiago was a bit confused. He's like, what is our personal legend? He's like, it's your mission, it's your thing, it's the thing inside that you need to do with your whole heart. Santiago pursued his mission. He traveled across the globe. He persisted, setback after setback. He made his way to the pyramids. By the time he got to the pyramids, he started digging for his treasure, only to be beat up by a bunch of thieves and burglars. They asked him, what are you doing looking for treasure here, boy? They laughed at him. They said to him, look, I too one day had a dream. My dream was to go across to Spain and there I'd find my treasure. But luckily I didn't do that because that was a silly idea. What is this book really telling us? This book is telling us to live our purpose, to listen to our heart. Within each of us, we have a personal legend. And regardless of the setbacks we have, our personal legend is going to be one of the most fulfilling things that we do and we pursue in life. Great book. I strongly suggest reading it. Epictetus Discourses. Now this book is a great book. We live in the 21st century and a lot of people are ruled by their emotions. And the thing is, when we're ruled by our emotions, a lot of the time we make decisions that we regret for a lifetime. Epictetus, he was a Stoic. He was born around 2,000 years ago and he was influenced by Zeno, who was the founder of Stoicism, but also by Plato, by Socrates, by Aristotle. So Stoic philosophy really comes down to two questions. What is within my control, which are my impressions, the way that I see the world essentially, and what is not within my control, which is everything outside of that. And anytime we focus on things outside of our control, it creates suffering. Great read, it's very deep. I'd strongly suggest reading it if you want to take control of your emotions and therefore take control of your life. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. So now, this book lies within the top 3 to 5 best books I've ever read. James Allen was one of the original thinkers in the New Thought movement. Now, what is a New Thought movement? The New Thought movement was that our thoughts create our reality. One of the things that I love in this book, and I'm going to read the passage too because I think it's so valuable. Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but a looking glass. So your thoughts that you have are going to create your environment, and your environment is nothing but a reflection of the thoughts that you're having. So you can change your destiny, you can change your future by changing your thoughts. This is a very good book. I've probably read it 5 to 10 times now. I'd strongly suggest reading it. It's only 40 to 80 pages, so definitely get yourself a copy and give this one a read. Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. Now, what is our paradigm? Well, he draws an image of a circle. He puts a line through the circle. The top of the circle is our conscious mind. At the bottom of the circle is our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind makes up our paradigm. And what makes up our paradigm? Our habits, our beliefs, our emotions, right? And how we influence, how does this subconscious mind, how does this paradigm develop? Well, it happens through our environment. Our friends around us, our family, the teachers, literally our environment shapes us to the person we are today. And as a result, naturally, we are a result of our environment. Now, what he goes on to say is by changing our paradigm, our life changes, right? Because what he goes on to say is our subconscious mind controls our actions 90% of the time. So if your paradigm isn't programmed correctly, you're going to be acting out this program. Even though you want to change, you're not going to be able to change. But what he goes on to say is by creating a vision for your life, what you want, creating a big goals, grand goals, and repeating it over and over again through affirmation, we can change our paradigm, and therefore we're going to act out the part we need to create the life that we want. You're just a reflection of the people around you, and when you break your paradigm, again, you can soar to greater heights. This book here, Man's Search for Meaning, it puts life into perspective. This tells of the story of a guy, Viktor Frankl, who spent 3 to 4 years in the concentration camps. It's graphic and it really tells you what these people had to go through. One of the statistics he goes on to say is that 1 out of 28 people within a concentration camp would survive, right? Then he goes on one level deeper. He says that the man who survived was a person who had hope. And he had hope because he had a vision for his future. He saw meaning in his life, and that meaning pulled him through the challenging and darkest of days. You could have 2 people going through the same traumatic events, the same torture, but 2 people, right, would have completely different outlooks. One would lose hope, and as soon as they lost hope, that'd be the one that would die. But the person with hope, they'd survive to make it another day. But he went one step further. He said, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control our attitudes of mind. This is a great book. It puts life into perspective. It teaches you how to think, and it teaches you that meaning in life, your purpose in life, is one of the most powerful things that's going to pull you through those challenges and going to make your life worth living. Great book. Strongly suggest reading this one. The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. What he says that in life, we can't judge a person by their degree or their education. That way that we judge an individual is by the size of their thinking. This book has a series of steps how to think big. It's got a practical step-by-step guide. It talks about how to eliminate fears. It talks about how to dress. It talks about how to speak, how to think big. Essentially, it gives you a playbook on the steps that you need to take in order to think big and therefore become a big person and therefore attract a successful life. So the size of your thinking is what's going to determine whether you become a success or not. And the Magic of Thinking Big is a playbook to help you think big and create the life of your dreams. Pushing to the Front by Orison Marden. Now, who was Orison Marden? Orison Marden was born around 1850, and he was the founder of the Success magazine. So a lot of his work's gone on to inspire millions of people to live successful and prosperous lives. Now, pushing to the front, what does it talk about? Exactly that, getting to the front of the line. What I love about this book is it's essentially like an apprenticeship in personal development, success, and prosperity. There's about 50 or so chapters, and every chapter talks about a different element of success. Something as simple as how to find what career to choose, how to find your purpose, how to concentrate, how to deal with confrontation. It talks about investing, it talks about saving. It essentially talks you through all the elements that you need in order to succeed in life. If you read no other book, you could almost read this book, and this gives you the best foundation in life, like an apprenticeship in personal development, success, and prosperity. Great book, strongly suggest reading it. It's one of my favorites, a big read, but again, you just pick up any chapter, pull it apart, and it's gonna give you a great level of wisdom. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. What I love about this book is he says that there is a science to getting rich. A lot of the time in life, we go through life and see somebody who's rich and famous, and we go, oh, that was just good luck. But the truth is, there was a series of steps that took them from A to Z in order to get rich. And the Science of Getting Rich actually gives us those steps in order to achieve richness. What I love about this book is he goes on to say that everybody has the right to get rich and everybody can get rich. A lot of the time in life, right, our parents, the people around us said, oh, that person's rich, he must be an arsehole. But essentially what he's saying is that the desire for riches is a praiseworthy desire, because a desire for riches is nothing but the desire for a richer, fuller, and more abundant life. And then he goes one step further. He goes on to say that everything in this universe is a manifestation of one substance that underlies everything, whether it be spirit, God, or the universe. And he goes on to say that the praising, the desire for riches, a fuller, more abundant life is a desire for more of the expression of the universe, which means that is a beautiful desire. Guys, this is a great book, The Science of Getting Rich. If you want to know how to get rich, read this book over and over again. It's not a huge book, but I've probably read this like 10 times now, and it's a great philosophy. Any modern day, getting rich books are essentially a watered down version of this book. Great book, strongly recommend it. Atomic Habits by James Clear. In order to become successful, in order to fulfill what's required in these books, it's going to be a matter of changing your habits. If you can't change your habits, you're going to stay where you are today. And this book talks about, developing habits, eliminating bad habits, but also changing the person you are in order to develop the habits that you want. He says we don't set goals, we set systems. So let me give you an example. So what is a goal? I want to run 10 kilometers. But setting a system is I run Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But then he goes on one step further. If we want to live the life that we want, if we want to create the habits that are going to lead us to success, we want to change our identity. Now, here's the catch. Changing the identity is I am a runner. By you being a runner as a natural byproduct, what does a runner do? A runner runs, and as a natural byproduct, they're going to be able to achieve their goals. So he goes on, the greatest, most successful way to develop the right habits is by changing our identity. And by changing our identity, we develop the systems and the goals in order to get the life that we want. Guys, Atomic Habits, it's a great book. I strongly suggest reading it. Guys, that's a wrap for today's video. There were 10 life-changing books. If you got value, smash like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Other than that, I'll see you all next week.